Hey y'all, in this video today I'm sharing 5 free tools you should be using for your nonprofit to level up in 2023. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, this is Tiffany with Boss on a Budget. I help new and small nonprofits get up and running. So if you need help with your nonprofit or if you need help raising money for your nonprofit, you should be subscribed because I drop information about that every single week. And I'm recording this right at the end of 2022, so I thought it would be good to do a video to think about what are tools you should be using to help you grow and to help you be successful in 2023. And they're all free because I realize that some of you watching this may not have a lot of financial resources to go around, but you still want to start your nonprofit. So I wanted to specifically talk to those folks who need free tools. And just as a caveat, I believe that if you want to grow in some way, sometimes you have to sacrifice and you have to invest money. That's just what it is. So I'm not advocating that you got to look for everything free and don't pay for anything. That's not what I'm advocating for, but it's always sweet when you can find something for free, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. 5 free tools. I also have one more bonus tip for you guys, which actually isn't a free tool, but I think it's something, if you don't know about it already, you should check it out because it'll be really, really helpful when it comes to doing the work you need to do in 2023. Number 1 is podcasts. And you know, podcasts could include a lot of different things. When I say podcasts, I mean like audio podcasts. So you go on your phone, you download episodes from a certain show and you listen to those podcasts. But I think that line is getting a little blurred now because people do kind of like video podcasts. So I'm lumping a lot of things into what I mean by podcast. But the reason why I'm calling them out in particular is because there are like jewels, there are treasures found in podcast episodes, and a lot of them are bite-sized. There are 20 minutes or less than 20 minutes where you can get really good information quickly. And the podcast hosts try to bring in people from different perspectives. So you're getting regular information from a variety of different people every time they drop an episode, and it can help you grow and level up all for free. And sometimes when you're trying to consume information, it's way more helpful to get it in bite-sized pieces, because if too much is being thrown at you all at once, you're probably going to get overwhelmed and not remember anything. But the reason why I like podcasts is because they're consumable, like they're easy to remember. And I like the audio podcast because it helps me focus. I don't have anything really to distract me when I'm listening to an audio podcast. When I decide I really want to listen and think about it and digest it, I don't have a visual like throwing me off or anything like that. I'm just concentrating on the words and the things that are being said. But on the flip side of that, podcasts are also really great when you're doing other things as well, like when you're walking or when you're cooking and things like that. So you can use it in a variety of different ways to help you consume information, and it's not overwhelming. So my recommendation to you, because I'm not actually recommending one particular podcast, I just think that it's something you should be considering if you're not already, like consuming more in 2023, just to grow in all different aspects. So if you have an iPhone, you can just go on the Apple Podcast app. It's the little purple icon, and you can just search nonprofit in the search bar, and there are plenty of nonprofit podcasts that will come up for you. You could do the same thing on an Android. If you get the Google Podcast app, you can do the same kind of search and find the podcast that works for you. And this is the great thing too, like even if you don't particularly like the host, or you feel like what they usually focus on the show isn't for you, there are so many different episodes that you can pick apart that may relate to the work that you're doing. So that I just love podcasts because it's just easy to get information. It's easy to find information and to consume it. And I just want to say, when it comes to the podcast, I'm not just recommending nonprofit podcasts. There are so many different things you can learn about when it comes to your business, to your personal life. If you invest in your personal life, you don't realize how much you doing that can help improve you professionally, can help improve how you look at your nonprofit, or how you look at making business connections, or how you relate to your board of directors, right? Or how you own your own power and step into your identity to give you the confidence to ask for money. So you don't have to specifically seek out a podcast on nonprofit fundraising, but you can learn some skills that are transferable to that type of work by listening to podcasts. So I just recommend you get a feel for the shows that you like, the shows that appeal to you. I especially like shows around building businesses, side hustles, digital marketing. And I'll just say, like, you can learn so many skills. Like, you can learn and grow so much by listening to podcasts. And part of the reason why I have approached Boss on a Budget the way I have is because of podcasts that I've listened to. I have a couple of favorite shows, and I've learned a lot of lessons from listening to those podcasts. So check out internet marketing or side hustle shows. The people who come on those, who talk about how they get noticed, how they become relevant, how they go viral, how do they make money, how do they market, all of that can absolutely help you when it comes to your nonprofit. So just keep an open mind and look for things even beyond just nonprofit topics. The second free tool you should be using in 2023 is LinkedIn. Now, I am just now paying attention to LinkedIn. Yes, I'm bad. I should have been paying attention way before this, but for other reasons, I have not really pursued that platform. But definitely in 2023, I think LinkedIn is something you should focus on, simply because it is such a great way to find connections, especially professionally, right? So people are on there with the intent of networking, with the intent of meeting new people. And what I talk about a lot, especially when it comes to fundraising, is your network is everything. You expanding and building upon your network is where your success will come when it comes to fundraising. So it's your job to meet as many people as possible to help get your mission out to those people. And LinkedIn is the perfect opportunity to do that, because people lay out their experience, people lay out their expertise, and it's built based on how people are connected, like similar job experiences or similar skill sets, and you can group people together on that. So if you're really looking for a specific type of person, it's easier to search out that person on LinkedIn than it is on any other social media platform. And the reason why I like LinkedIn is because it's a built-in expectation that people are there to network. So when people message you, it doesn't feel as icky as if someone messages you on Facebook. Because when you get an IM from Facebook, I just, half the time I ignore them, even though I shouldn't. But it just feels way more scammy on Facebook than it does on LinkedIn. Now, here's the thing, though. Even though LinkedIn is built on the idea of networking, you can still feel super spammy when you're reaching out to people. So just make sure you're reaching out to people in a genuine way, that you genuinely want to make connections, you genuinely want to know more about what they do, and you genuinely want to partner with them. So even though LinkedIn has an environment that feels a little bit less spammy or scammy than the other social media platforms, you still want to check yourself and make sure you're not being scammy or spamming people when you reach out to them. I'm going to stop here and say, if you are interested in starting a nonprofit and you have not started yet and you're just watching me to get a feel for it, make sure you download my free startup checklist. It is linked below in the description box. And if you need help implementing what's in that checklist, you can also check out my nonprofit startup workbook, which walks through the checklist in detail to help you plan your first year for your nonprofit. The third free tool that I want to talk about is actually not one particular tool. It's a suite of tools. So I want you to think more about utilizing project management or messaging apps, right? So I'm talking about things like Slack. So I've talked about most of these in other videos, and I'm linking one video above that goes through a couple of the ones that I'm mentioning right now. But apps like Slack, like Notion, like ClickUp, which is one of my personal favorites, like Asana, like Trello, Monday.com, right? And Monday.com even has a discount for nonprofits as well. Those kinds of tools help you communicate better and help you plan better. One of the things that is easy to get caught up with when you're starting, whether it's a nonprofit or a business, is that you have to manage every piece of your business. When you're a startup founder, there just aren't staff, or there's just not the capacity to give different tasks to different people. So it's hard to keep track of it when you have to do everything. So a lot of times when you're starting as a nonprofit founder, everything is in your head, right? Or you're randomly doing post-its, or you're randomly putting things in your notes app, and it's hard to organize everything that you're doing. And how does this impact your nonprofit? How does this impact your growth? Well, if you want a team of people to go along with you to help execute your vision, it's really hard for them to execute a vision that's not written down or that's not fully articulated, and it's not one that they can follow very well. So these project management tools can help you design and plan out your work and set goals and set milestones and measure your success, all along the way, and it can do it in an organized way so you can keep track and you can hold yourself accountable, but also hold other people accountable. So as an example, I'm going to use ClickUp because it's my favorite. You can use ClickUp to track a process or a workflow, right? So maybe you want to write a certain number of grants, and there are different people that you've assigned maybe on the board or volunteers who have decided to do different pieces of that. So you can break down the different pieces as different tasks. You can set deadlines for them. You can set email reminders so they know when things are due. You can communicate within ClickUp to show your progress. You can do checklists within each task. So like say you have a task of pulling together data for the needs statement, right? You can in your checklist check off where you've searched for different periodicals and different data and statistics. And so everybody who has access to ClickUp and can see your tasks can see where everyone else is along that workflow or whatever pipeline you've designed. So you never have to chase around people and say, hey, where are you? What's going on with this? As long as people keep updated and use the apps, it can help you stay super organized. That's just one example, but there are so many different ways that you can use an app like ClickUp or the other ones that I mentioned to help keep you organized. So I encourage you to use those apps to stay organized. And this is the thing with this kind of stuff. You have to use them. That's the trick. Like there's so much power in these tools, but you actually have to use them and you have to commit to opening them up and actually updating things. So that's just the caveat that I will say, that they are powerful tools, but they're only powerful when you use them. And just as a reminder, I'm talking about free tools. So all of these tools have like a free base level where there are a lot of things you can do even at the free level. And then some of the apps that I mentioned also have discounts or free services for nonprofits. So you have different levels of services that you can get to that other businesses would have to pay for, but as a nonprofit, as a 501c3 organization, you can get it for free. So absolutely check into those and start using those apps in 2023, y'all. All right. Number 4 is Google Drive. All right. So I sometimes am surprised by the number of people who don't use Google Drive or have never heard of it or don't really understand what it does. So I'll try to be as simple as possible. So Google Drive is basically a set of folders or like a storage space for all of your files and important information that are kept in the cloud. So how I envision the cloud, because I'm not going to have a really technical way of explaining this, it's just going to be like really broken down and really simplified. The cloud is just like a storage space for you to store files, pictures, images, things like that on the internet. So instead of them actually being stored in like a physical hard drive or a physical piece of equipment, it's stored online. And the advantage of it being stored online is that multiple people can access it all at once, right? So that's the power of the cloud, so that you can have a storage space where a bunch of people can access and store information and get information they need without having to reach out to you or having a certain like level or like having to be like in a physical place in order to access it. So why does that matter for your nonprofit? You have to remember that it requires a lot of collaboration, working across teams, working across committees. If you have a board, if you have volunteers, if you have people doing fundraising, you need like a central place to keep all of your information. You don't want everybody creating documents and saving it on their own personal drives on their computers. That puts you at risk, right? Like what if that person's computer, something happens with them, or what if that person decides not to work for your organization anymore, you lose access to some important organizational information. And if it's organizational information, like if it's official organization for your nonprofit, it should be in a shared space. So that information is not lost just because one person is not available. So that's the advantage of Google Drive, like having one place to store information that multiple people can have access to. And I like Google Drive because you can give people different levels of access, so they can access certain folders and other folders they may not be able to access, but it helps keep everything organized and in one place. So I mentioned my nonprofit startup workbook before, and in the beginning of that workbook, there's actually an example of how you can organize your Google Drive, like the different categories, the different folder names you can use for your Google Drive. Now, there are other services like Google Drive, like Microsoft may have, and other companies might have, but I'm a Google girl, so I can only talk about what I know. And I can only talk about what I'm used to. So, you know, you may have OneDrive and it may do exactly the same thing that I'm talking about, and you may prefer that because you're a Microsoft person. But I just really wanted to call out Google Drive because it's easy to use, it's simple, it doesn't require a lot of convoluted processes for people to access, and it's something that if you're not using already, you should absolutely be using it. And you can have a Google Drive for any Gmail account. Like, you can have a limited amount of space for any Gmail account, but if you sign up for the Google Workspace, right, you can get access to more space on your Google Drive. And you can also, as a 501c3 nonprofit, get your email addresses for free and attach those email addresses or access to a drive in space for a drive, right? So I'm just putting some links below that explain like Google Drive a little bit more for you, because again, this is really simplified, but the point is just make sure you're using it in 2023 or something like it in 2023. All right, so the last tool before I talk about the bonus tip is a service called HARO, HARO, and it actually stands for Help a Reporter Out, right? So what HARO does is it's like a listserv, and you sign up for HARO, and what happens is there are reporters who are looking for stories, or they're often looking for experts to contribute to their stories, or sometimes there are bloggers who are looking for experts or looking for quotes or people with a certain kind of experience so that they can create some kind of content like an article or a TV segment or a blog post or something like that. So what HARO does for them is gives them a space to put out their request, and then HARO sends it out 3 times a day to their list of people, and you can look at those requests and see if something fits what you're trying to do. So let me break this down for some of y'all who may not be understanding what I'm trying to say. You want to get a feature in a national, like an online magazine, right? And a reporter who is covering something related to your topic, maybe you're dealing with something with domestic violence, and they're looking for an expert on domestic violence or a person who has experienced domestic violence. You're on the HARO listserv and you see that request on one of the emails that they send out every day. So you say, oh, I know someone in our organization who can speak to that, or I can speak to that because I have that experience. You can respond to that request, and if they accept you, you can be featured in that publication or whatever that reporter is trying to do. It's just like that. I've used HARO myself a bunch of times and have actually been added to some online publications over the years for different topics and different reasons. But the reason why I'm calling out HARO is because if you want to elevate the mission of your nonprofit, or if you want to elevate yourself and establish yourself as an expert in a certain field, getting press does that for you. And instead of, having to go through sending out press releases to different publications, which you still should be doing, right? I'm not going to talk about like what you should or shouldn't be doing. You still can do that. HARO simplifies the process for you though. So you want to get noticed. It's really, really important for you to be visible as a nonprofit and to be positioned as an expert, be positioned as somebody or as an organization that has something to say or that has an opinion about something. That creates credibility, and with credibility comes trust, and with trust comes money, okay? So it's all related to your financial sustainability. So you want to be able to use press to establish that, and you can do that by using a service like HARO. All right, y'all, we've come to my bonus tip before I jump off, and I just want to call out a service called Fiverr. Fiverr. I'm linking it below. For those who don't know about Fiverr, it is like an online marketplace where you can find people from all across the world who are willing to do contract work for you. And it can be anything from like, help me edit these photos, or help me create a logo, or help me create a spreadsheet of names. I need to do some research, so I need to fill in this spreadsheet, right? It could be, honestly, you can find almost any kind of help on Fiverr. And some of the prices are really affordable because some of the people who are doing the work for you are not in the country. So you know, they may not cost as much as someone who's based in the US, or you may prefer to have someone based in the US for multiple reasons. Just know that the price points may be different, but also the quality of the work and the understanding that the person has may be different depending on what you choose. But Fiverr is great because you have a lot of different options. And if you have short-term things that you need help with, like organizing something or doing a research project, right? You can pay someone $15, $20, something like that to do that for you. Whereas it would have taken you, maybe it would have just taken you an hour or two, but you don't have the capacity to prepare all of that for yourself. It could take a huge load off by knowing you can give it to someone else to do. So I just want to call out Fiverr as a service you should be considering. There are some things you shouldn't use Fiverr for. Like, don't use Fiverr. Be careful when you're using Fiverr for a logo or like graphic design. Sometimes the quality isn't the best. So just know what you're getting yourself into. And there are other types of things. You just got to be smart about your decision making when it comes to it, but it's still a great choice for certain things. A couple examples of how I've used it for people to help me populate blog posts for different websites, not Boss on a Budget, but other websites that I've created. Help identifying grant funders, like using your subscription to a service to help them do like a search of grants that you can apply for in the next year. Maybe you want to reach out to a bunch of organizations in your area and you need them to do a Google search to find those organizations and the contact information. Those are just examples of how you can use Fiverr. So if you're not using it or you haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out today. Which ones are you going to start using in 2023? I would love to hear from you guys, for you to tell me which one those are. Also, if you need help with your nonprofit, don't forget to visit me at www.bossonabudget.com, and I'll see you in the next video.